Rakan from Kedaya.
Yeah, I like that though. Kedaya has been an absolute monster on Rakan. I respect that ban. But the Aphelios locked in, which does mean Zhao is available for Xiaopeng if he wants it. So's Thresh, so's Jinx. There's a lot of power picks available, and that's what I was thinking when we saw those first 4 bans. I was like, we're not banning any AD carries yet. There's a lot of really good AD carries right now.
Yeah, for TES to now have an option, if they do decide to lock in this Thresh, they don't necessarily need to ping Jinx now. You would think they could just go Thresh and Zhao, save AD carry for 3, make sure they get that priority jungler. That would leave them open to, if WE decide to just blind pick up mid laner and potentially getting banned out in second phase, but it's not something I think you have to be all too worried about for the side of TES.
Remember that, you know, Zhao has been comfortably the highest priority jungler. So if Xiaopeng doesn't go for that, then he's basically saying, whatever I picked, which turns out to be the Viego, he is super comfortable going into that Zhao. He's happy with that matchup. And now the Rek'Sai hover, I feel like this is, like, Xiaopeng is known for Rek'Sai, so I wonder if this is BiuBiu kind of just acknowledging his opponent there.
Oh, it definitely is. I don't expect the Rek'Sai to come out for the side of WE, at least not this early in draft when you do still have other picks open. There is the Zhao that we were expecting. Now for the side of WE, you could match support. I don't expect for WE to pull out an Enchanter and oh, they are. I'm wrong. We don't get this. We don't get this in LPL Munchables.
I know. I was thinking it. I was like, it could be a Yuumi or a Lulu angle, but that's not what Kedaya has excelled at. You know, this is not the style that WE have gone for. But I'm up for it. Let's find out how they can do with it. Because, I mean, look at the champions that Lulu's with. It definitely works.
Oh, I think it's phenomenal for the composition. Just LPL teams typically shying away from these champions. Lulu is the 5th most picked support in LPL right now, but still a ton of other tanks do surround her. I think you do have to play a bit differently laning phase, a bit more aggressive. I think does quite well into the Thresh matchup as well. TES answering with the Jinx is not all too surprising. They set up for that with the Thresh takeaway. And now we're going to be looking at where they want to go with champions in the second phase. When we've been talking about how impactful of a player Shanks is, I wouldn't mind for them to ban out more blind pick mids, and it does look like that's what they're going to follow suit with, taking away the Twisted Fate. Victor and Orianna are the other 2 I'm looking at.
Yeah, we need Victor banned, we need Orianna banned, we need Vex banned, and then we need Knight to lock in his Zoe. That's my my fortune teller of how this draft goes. I'm praying that we get a little bit of Knight Zoe action on the field, but we'll have to wait and see. There's the Vex ban that I called for, though. It could happen.
The other thing I'm keeping my eye on is maybe a potential Sinjar or something for the side of WE. Something more aggressive in the mid lane to pair well for the mid jungle 2v2 coming out with BiuBiu, enabling him to roam early, shutting Knight down. For TES, I think it's a bigger question mark. I think you should typically draft mid on 4 and look to counterpick top lane. I think there's a lot of safe, blind pickable mids in the meta, but just the way top esports play, still not really giving Zoom too many resources. I wouldn't be all too surprised if they did just go for either a Renekton on 4 and then save your last pick for Knight.
Brave spanned away here. We'll have to see what top esports mentality with this is, though. But I think when you have Zoom in the top lane counter pick just makes sense, right? This is the kind of guy where if you set him up for it, he's gonna win his lane. The Victor, unfortunately, though, was not banned. And as much as I love Zoe, I do think that the Victor is probably the smart pick.
No, I completely disagree. We have seen pop-up performances, and we're gonna get the LeBlanc instead. Way better. You are going up against things like a Lulu, the Wild Girl, is going to be quite annoying. Even a Zhao, quite annoying once he does pop that ultimate, finding your way into range. Does open up the Lissandra counter pick, able to come out for WE. Also brings setup to your mid jungle 2v2 to allow you to come and find those ganks, roam early on with the Lissandra. And then you're looking at what WE want to be blind picking for top side. No, they don't do it much. We don't get the classic.
No, gonna be the Ryze coming on through. So Shanks sticking to his comfort zone for the time being and just going with these control mages that we keep on seeing from him. And now we just need the top lane. This is gonna be blind going through for BiuBiu. BiuBiu, a player that has been known to sort of flip his lane a little bit and Zoom, a player that has been known to completely demolish top laners that like to flip their lane, and he's gonna lock in an Aatrox. This is already feeling pretty aggressive from the side of Zoom.
Oh, I think it's really nice as well, just being able to play off of that range with your Q, contest the Gragas. You know, he's going to be throwing out his barrels early on. Having that W, you can try and force out his E, look for the all-in. So for the side of TES, we do have something a bit more aggressive, which is what we expected, right? LeBlanc looking to move and roam early on. Viego is going to be a bit slower, so I don't expect to see too much until he does hit that level 4 mark, and especially level 6 looking for the skirmishes, and maybe playing up towards top side for the side of TES. For WE, I think we are waiting a little bit longer before Ryze is enabled
to get this series underway. It's Top Esports versus WE, game number 1 here. And we'll see what WE have up their sleeves, because this composition, I'm going to be honest, I think it's going to be really hard for like Zoom, Xiaopeng, Knight to have an influence in these fights against the Lulu and the Zhao.
100%, right? You're going to jump in. You're going to have things to worry about like the Gragas E. We already talked about the wild growth coming out for Kedaya. View with the ultimate as well. I think for TS, you can't really be looking for those straight-up 5v5s unless you get a massive advantage early on. We are going to say replay in the bottom corner. Knight did get a ward over with his distortion. And now we're going to see how Top Esports are able to use this to do what we just said, to find an advantage early, to get some of these picks off. Knight wanting to trade very aggressively at level 1. And then, like I said, I'd expect maybe putting some attention up towards the top side later on, but definitely going to be aiming bot lane early when you do have this stretch, and you can try and set up some of the skill pressure and try and burn some summoners from a very squishy bot lane in Aphelios Lulu.
Yeah, we'll see if Zhuo will actually find any angles to get in there. I will say, Zhuo, as far as Thresh players go, he's pretty up there with the aggression. This is the kind of guy that likes to go in. So even though it is Jinx Thresh, you can imagine that they'll still go for plays. And there it is. Hook immediately goes on it. Just a bit of trading back and forth. And it will mean that JackeyLove should be able to force that level 2 first. And it should force Stay and Kedaya away a little bit. View pathing up towards the top side so far. Now, obviously, Top Esports, they had that ward from Knight on the red buff, so they'll know that he's pathed up towards that top side. Xiaopeng going the opposite direction, so Zoom will have to be cautious.
Zoom should be in a fine spot. BiuBiu does have the gank setup, though, coming out with his E. They definitely have the damage to take out Zoom earlier on. Later on, it could be a bit annoying once he does get his World Ender. Just a ton more sustain coming out, a bit of mobility. We'll also have the E once he gets a few levels under his belt, sitting on level 2 right now. So both teams kind of trading sides early on. Wouldn't be surprised to see View switch it up after his first clear and play more for defending Stay and Kedaya. Because for the side of WE, I feel like a lot of your game plan is just getting down early vision, tracking Xiaopeng, and really just making sure Knight can't move. So a lot of vision around mid lane, control wards coming up, and nothing happening. If you're WE, you want nothing to happen, and you are super happy. The rest of us, probably molding, but WE will be the winners.
Yeah, so if you're a fan of WE, you want absolutely nothing to happen. But if you're a fan of League of Legends, then right now, you're supporting Top Esports because they want things to happen. And Xiaopeng is going to prove us right as he tries to make his way into the mid lane here. Knight going to start the playoff. Can he hit the chains? The answer is yes. And the root goes down, followed by the stun. Shanks over the wall. And no flash to follow, but hey, we'll take those ones. That's both summoners on cooldown now for Shanks. He doesn't have TP to get back to lane.
That's just a really nice play coming out from Knight as well. Distortion's in, holds the chain just in case he goes for some kind of quick flash. Shanks doesn't do it because he knows Knight has flash as well to be able to follow up. We're going to see Xiaopeng now using that control mid to make his way down towards bot.
He's just making the rounds, isn't he? He's just, oh, here's another lane. Oh, yeah, I'll go for a gank on this one. This is what we were saying about Xiaopeng. This is the kind of guy that wants to make things happen. This is why I love watching Xiaopeng play. Great ward here by BiuBiu. Will spot out Xiaopeng when he's on that top side of the map and give his team a little bit more information to play around. And I am curious when we talk about BiuBiu about how this matchup is going to go. Zoom getting the, well, supposed counter pick. I don't really know the matchup myself, but I'm curious to see how this Aatrox versus Gragas pans out.
So much bulls. The sad thing about pretty much any Gragas lane in the top lane is unless you're pulling out something like a Vayne or another really oppressive ranged carrier marksman, I feel like Gragas is pretty fine into anything. Heck, Gragas can even go against some range champions like Jace was one he used to be picked into back in 2017. You just have so much sustain coming out from your W and your passive. You have your E to be able to get away. You can farm from a range with your Q. So I don't expect Zoom to be getting too far ahead, but you do have good trade patterns like this. I'm completely wrong, Munchables! Why is BiuBiu running it down?
Yeah, no, he's okay. He's fine. He survived and passive. He was just baiting us. He's just trying to look
I just
cool.
wonder if he E'd before we went up to top lane or why he was holding it for so long. Zoom getting a ton of free trading off of him. We hit on just Aatrox, the ability to tether range with your Q, be able to play off of it. I do think BiuBiu is not playing this optimally, though.
It's a very political way of saying what you're trying to say there, Mr. Lyric. Yeah, Zoom having a good time. So far, not that far ahead in CS, but in terms of health, doing very well in these trades. He's going to be able to force the TP out from BiuBiu here. And we'll get favorable reset off for himself. So nicely done by Zoom to find an opportunity to punish up in that top side. And I have to say, when we talked about top esports, we did say, look, this is the kind of team that when they win through gapping their lanes. Well, we're starting to see a bit of a lane gap in the top lane. There's a bit of a CS gap in the mid lane. There's a bit of a CS gap in the bottom lane. This is all going tickety-boo for top esports when it comes to that kind of... Oh,
yeah, it looks like...
Actually? Oh, it's a solo kill. Zoom just walks under the tower, wants to make sure that Viu doesn't get any of the action. But hey, we're talking about BiuBiu messing up. He's just solo killed Zoom.
I mean, he got a reset off before Zoom did. TP's back to lane, has a bit of an item advantage, throws out the cask. Zoom being a little bit over-aggressive. On the opposite side of the map, though, TES have gotten a ton of vision down. We were talking about how WE want to be the team to control vision around mid lane, at least try and deny some of his plays, just to counteract whatever moves WE wants to make. But Xiaopeng going to be stealing away a red buff, and it looks like top esports are trying to stack a wave down in bot, at least a 9 farm, because WE know that Xiaopeng is on this side of the map.
Shanks doesn't know he's there. Well, I think he's got an idea that he's there, but he hasn't actually seen him just yet. And Xiaopeng actually sweeps because he's like, does he know I'm here? But Shanks has to commit to this wave eventually, and Knight is willing to wait. He's willing to lose CS for this, but eventually has to give up Viu moving back into this bottom side of the map. Not quite in range of that ward just yet, so won't have been spotted, but JackeyLove gets out on that lantern and he'll be A-okay. So very, very quiet early game so far, and you know, Xiaopeng has been trying to make things happen, and you know, Zoom massively overstepping in that top side to give us at least a little bit of action. But generally speaking, I'm surprised at the restraint we're seeing from top esports.
Top esports have still done a good job of getting control, right? They had complete vision control up until this moment where a lot of their work was timed out, especially around mid and bot. We saw some counter jungling coming out from Xiaopeng. They've denied some CS down in mid lane, with JackeyLove having a 10 CS advantage right now. But you're right, seems like waiting for that level 6 mark, especially for Xiaopeng to be able to have that ultimate, find the resets in the skirmishes. Now that Rift Herald is up, you know, this is what top esports are going to want to look for, since they do want a lot of these fights. For WE, I feel like the play would even just be to acknowledge that top esports should be stronger right now. They also have control, so it could zone you off and poke off with the LeBlanc. And just look towards the bottom side.
Herald right now is nice to get Xiaopeng already starting this one off as Viu finishes his blue buff off, but with Zoom moving over, JackeyLove moving up from the bottom side as well. We're going to have 5v5 on our hands. Hook goes out from Zhuo, does find Shanks, but they can't follow up, and it's actually stolen by Viu, and WE will grab themselves a Herald. They'll grab themselves a bonus kill on the enemy top laner, and BiuBiu got the Herald with Zoom down, no TP. He can just grab some plates.
Ooh, and yeah, he's going to drop that one right away for Stay. And Stay even has the best combination of guns to just be able to burn that tower down even quicker. I do got to say, it looks like top esports panic, which is sad. The rotation from JackeyLove coming up very late, maybe expecting them to not follow up. But hey, WE for this are going to be able to get a huge gold injection onto their Aphelios, who's going to be the primary damage dealer.
That feels really, really good for WE. He will get a third plate here. The question is, will he survive? Because Xiaopeng in on the Thresh Express and now stays in trouble, but the hook immediately goes through. Cleanse is going to help a little, but Knight's here as well. Rocket comes out from JackeyLove. Xiaopeng falls though. It's 1-for-1 thanks to Shanks, who's looking for a little more, but decides to back away in the end. With 3 plates and an even trade of kills, I think WE take that any day of the week.
WE definitely coming out on top in that play. They did have to burn a ton of summoners, though. Both flashes burned from Stay, and Shanks' cleanse going down as well. Realm Warp utilized for him to be able to get there. I think we're going to go back to the Herald replay now, though. I think top esports panic a little bit with the fact of how far JackeyLove is, maybe even noticing that Aphelios is here, because that smite came out so early from Xiaopeng and set up for the steal. Now it's just straight up numbers advantage for the side of Team WE. They're able to single zoom out and find the kill. So again, going back, I don't know if TES expected WE to just give Herald because of how far behind they were in terms of tempo to be able to get there, which is why they kept JackeyLove bot lane so long. But the rotation from Stay definitely mattering, and just Xiaopeng not on point with the smite.
I'm kind of impressed at the CS difference in this bottom lane right now, though, because JackeyLove is actually somewhat even in gold. It's only 300 gold down after all of those plates. JackeyLove managing to stay relevant here, but Drake down to 1,000. It's going to be smited. WE now looking for a fight on top of it, but a good flash from Xiaopeng. Knight trying to move in for a bit of damage himself. Shanks can answer those. Zap comes in. Top esports aren't done just yet, and that hook is beautiful from Zhuo. Straight onto the enemy AD carry, and it sets up for Knight to finish him off. 2 kills from top esports, and they look for more with the slow onto BiuBiu as well. Ethereal Chains looks for the root on top of everything else. Knight has to get out, though. Or does he? Grabs himself a double kill. Beautifully done by top esports.
And this is the early skirmishing we were talking about. Zhuo finding the hook. Looks like they still want to go for more. WE feeling quite confident that top esports can't go for a dive. They don't have a wave, so doesn't look like TS will even try to threaten it. JackeyLove is going to try and push us in quickly. Hopefully deny Stay some more. Yes, it is a cannon wave, so Stay's just pretty much fine. But for WE, they were able to pick up the dragon themselves, as we're going to see in this replay. If you notice, the minimap zoom is still not here. BiuBiu trying to find the flash cast, but nice flash coming up from Xiaopeng. And keep your eyes on Zhuo here, because he's the man who sets this all up. Flashes in for the hook onto Aphelios. Zoom doing a great job of zoning the other members off. BiuBiu even jumping in to all of the AoE and Aatrox damage coming out. Didn't really take any damage, but still just giving Zoom an even easier time of deleting people. And then Knight doing a pretty nice job of weaving in and out of these fights to delete people. 3-0 on the LeBlanc. You never want that when Knight's on your screen.
And the really brutal thing is, I briefly mentioned it before the fight. Knight is literally 1v3ing just to annoy them. He can't even get anything off of this play. He's just playing with his food right now.
Ooh, me and Hysterics were hitting on this the other day as well, but we have Knight once again going back to the whole, you know what? I'm going to buy Dark Steel every game. We're going to see if I can stack it up and get the Jags or not. If not, he'll sell it. I think last game he did have to sell it, which is quite disappointing. So hopefully he can keep the pain train rolling, get that Magi's, and start showing up like he did last split, where he broke the record for solo kills in a split.
I mean, this guy is a monster, and we saw when he stepped onto the stage, he had a huge grin on his face. Clearly, the banter is good within top esports right now. And he's clearly feeling it. 3-0 so far this game. Looking good on that LeBlanc. And, we were questioning the LeBlanc pick, especially into a Lulu, especially into a Zhao as well. Like, not necessarily a draft that is going to massively favor a LeBlanc pick, but when you're Knight, I guess you can pick whatever you want. And managed to make it work out. JackeyLove similarly doing a lot of work on this Jinx so far, and Stay really starting to feel the wrath. And this is one of the things about Aphelios. Everyone talks about how strong you are in the late game, but they always neglect to mention the fact that when you don't have Calibrum, you don't have any range, and you can be bullied really easily.
Yeah, top esports, though, looking to bully him out like you're saying. They had the lean down from Knight. They've had vision control bot side this whole time. WE having to go for the cross-map play, making their way up towards top. Wonder if BiuBiu has a wave. In this matchup, Aatrox should have a pretty decent time thinning it out, but no, they're going for it.
Okay, Zoom gonna pop the ulti. I don't think he can survive this one. The lifesteal though! Oh my days, he moves out of the tower again. He's actually alive right now. BiuBiu misses the barrel. Can Zoom survive? Not anymore, unfortunately. Gets him all low, but can't finish him. Now the play on the bottom side for the flash from Kedaya keeps him safe. And, Zoom is 0-3 right now, but I take my hat off to him. The length he survived in that play was incredible.
Aatrox is a champion that I wouldn't say it's necessarily difficult to dive him post 6, but it is definitely more annoying. I mean, the 30% increased healing you get from World Ender. I think the bonus movement speed, something like 50 or 60% at rank 1 ultimate as well. So just a lot of ways to try and weave in and out, dodging certain skill shots, healing up like you just saw. He did his best. WE still going to be able to get that one. We're going to go to a replay. I wonder if it's just of the dive itself. Cast in immediately, no other members here. View going in. How does he get? Okay, so massive 2-man heal into the Iron Spike Whip. And yeah, just hits the sweet spots of the Qs that he needs.
Yeah, beautifully done, but does get hit. I think it was in the Q animation as that W came out from View. He tried his best, but ultimately, a well-executed dive from WE, right? Not missing too many of their skill shots and managing to pull it off. It may have looked a little dicey, but it doesn't actually matter how dicey it looks. All that matters is who died, who survived. WE come out on top of the trade. Does mean that they're trying to close this gold gap somewhat after the big fight down in that bottom side. It is still top esports, 2,000 gold ahead, but WE not giving up yet, right? Still fighting for control. Currently, with Tempo on their side, playing towards this top lane, as Knight is moved down to this bottom side.
TES realizing, hey, we need to start stacking up these Drakes for the fact that WE have picked up 2 themselves. So just more cross-mapping coming out for TES. I feel like they do have a little bit more pressure threatening these dives or threatening these cross-maps because you are going up against Ryze on the opposite side. Very squishy, a ton of burst coming out from your LeBlanc. Compared for WE, who are just going to have to keep utilizing the Gragas split push to potentially threaten dives on Aatrox, though. Top esports are trading a tier 2 bot for your mid-tier 1. Not a huge fan of this play coming out. This is going to open up a lot of control for the side of Team WE.
Yeah,
I think WE get
both. See
both.
the resets are now going to come on through. JackeyLove needs to get resetting himself. Knight is behind the play, but this Herald is going to keep going. This will be a tier 2 in the mid lane going the way of WE. They obviously already got the tier 1 up in that top side, and you can see the team moving in that direction. I'm not sure if they'll actually have an angle to try and get that one. The Herald does go down. Doesn't get the charge in the mid lane at very least. Now top esports playing Scavenger. Can they finish anyone off on the ripples? But it's not looking good for them. And there are so many blue wards in this jungle now. Top esports will not be able to move on the top side of the map without WE's knowledge.
I gotta say, though, that was really confusing coming out from TES. I like the idea of how the play started off. You're looking to go bot side. You're putting some pressure on Shanks. You're denying him farm in XP. To where Zoom on the opposite side was able to catch waves in mid because the top wave wasn't set up yet. TES, I think, shouldn't have looked for the tier 2 bot, though. Just rotate your core earlier, defend that mid lane turret. Potentially you find a skirmish, which is what you'd want anyway. And at the very least, if everything goes even, you have denied gold off the Ryze in that situation compared to the Aatrox being able to pick up farm on the opposite side. But TES did greed a little bit as BiuBiu looking for the aggression.
JackeyLove's in trouble, but the Flame Chompers keep him alive for the time being. Zhuo, the sacrificial lamb, but now the flash onto JackeyLove. Cast back, but gets behind Zoom. Is Knight trying to play distraction for his AD carry. Rocket goes in. BiuBiu solo on HP, and Xiaopeng to the other side of the wall. Flashes over the wild growth, keeps him alive. Knight finishing the kill off. Resets for Xiaopeng. JackeyLove still going strong. He's autoing a ward. Hit the enemies, JackeyLove. The ward finally goes down, and that means he can hit the chickens instead. But the Flame Chompers go in once more. It's a 1-for-1 somehow, as JackeyLove finally throws an auto at the enemies.
For top esports, they were playing on both sides of the fight. Knight, though, really nice chain, is going to have to back off. I think it was a really weird formation coming out from TES. They were trying to collapse from both sides. But when you are the composition with a bunch of squishy champions, and WE's comp is enabled by being grouped up as a 5-man, you all jump in from opposite sides. BiuBiu's like, cool, I'll E, I'll throw to cask. We have a wild growth. There's so many different ways. And obviously, it's very easy for WE to just say, hey, we can just turn to one side because they're all split. They find it onto Zhuo very easily. They get the first pick off. BiuBiu trying to set them up for the second one does force out JackeyLove summoners, which is pretty big. Knight on the opposite side able to deal a lot of damage to allow the rocket follow through to pretty much set up this kill on BiuBiu to come out from Knight. But in the end, nothing else able to be found. A ton of mobility coming out for both sides. But I feel like WE in a pretty good position. WE won the last rotation, the last macro play that we saw before this replay happened. They're going even in fights against the composition that does feel like it needs to have a bit more momentum than its opponent.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that one. It feels like WE in a really good spot right now. And again, they are a bit down in gold, but every time we mention it, that gold difference is shrinking more and more. The one big issue I can see for WE right now is the fact that right now their gold is not placed as well as top esports gold. Look at JackeyLove and Knight's scoreboards right now. 4 kills for Knight. JackeyLove massively ahead in CS as well, having a bunch of assists and that extra kill. So he's half an item up on his opponent right now. Knight is massively ahead as well. So the big issue for WE is just where that gold is sat in their team right now.
For WE, though, I mean, as long as you're just able to buy time and keep scaling up. Dragon's coming up in 30 seconds. They're the team that has full control of bot side River, so they should be looking at that one. Potentially getting on Soul Point against the comp that is going to be playing off a lot of range, the LeBlanc, the Jinx. So for WE, they'll be able to utilize that Soul, back off, heal up, and look for the engages they need. I feel like even just the position of the map right now, what we see on our screen is really good for them. Zoom is going to be able to push out bot, though, but I don't know if the other members of Top Esports will be able to get a handle on mid in time to look to contest this dragon.
CW just stacking up mid here to try and find priority. Knight off on the side, waiting for an opportunity, but it's only going to get more difficult for Knight. As Kedaya starts to get items, he will become an absolute nuisance to wild growth, as well as just the polymorph. Doing a lot of work to stop LeBlanc having her way in these fights. Zoom flanking on the bottom side now, and you can see the way that TES positioned to try and force WE away from the mid lane. Well, having to flash to keep himself alive from BiuBiu's cast, but that's a big cooldown for WE.
A very important one as well. If you start getting LeBlanc distortioning in, coming out from Zoom to make sure he can get on targets, that'd be quite useful. Oh, View!
Oh, the knock-up on the Lantern. JackeyLove is down. Huge pick for WE here, as Zhuo will surely fall as well. Zoom trying to buy time, trying to distract for the top side of the fight, but he just can't do anything. And forget the dragon. It's a realm warp into the Baron Pit, and WE are coming up huge in this game.
And this is exactly what we knew would happen. We said it, right? Top Esports theoretically should come in as favorites. They're not going to 2-0 this series. There's no way. They still might win the series. I don't know who wins the series. But WE would take a game. They have the easier to execute comp, as we see in the fights. You just stack as a 5-man, and Top Esports like, what could we do? None of our champions really want to jump into what you're doing. And then WE able to pivot that to a Baron is so massive.
And it does just feel like, for example, this LeBlanc lock-in. We said right at the start, this doesn't feel particularly good into the enemy composition. Victor was available. You could have just gone Victor here. That would have been great. But Top Esports being Top Esports. And, now being punished a little bit for it is JackeyLove getting caught out of position. And that's twice in a row. That's 2 fights in a row that it all starts off with JackeyLove.
And we're going to see View goes for the wind becomes lightning into the flash, just able to catch JackeyLove out, not able to get the lantern in time. Then your carry that has the ability to do the safest damage to what WE have drafted is gone, because we've been talking about it. Both Knight and Zoom, even Xiaopeng, none of you really have a great ability to jump on WE's carries. And their front line, if you do, Gragas will just be able to buy enough time for Stay to be able to delete you. So now for WE, we're going to see them controlling top side of the map. Probably playing to push in mid, link up with Shanks top, take that turret down. And now for Top Esports, you're going to be the one buying time, maybe trying to find a pick with Knight in rotation, just keep using distortion to go in and force out a lot of these cooldowns or summoners.
See if they're going to be able to... I feel like we need to see Knight doing some magical stuff, right? That's ultimately what it's going to come down to is... I don't want to say it again. It's going to be Mojo Dip. It's going to be Mojo Dip.
It's Mojo.
That's the only way Top Esports to win this game at this point. And if they do manage to pull it off, I can't wait to see it. But right now, I'm hedging my bets on WE. They're feeling good. They got the Baron. That's a tier 2 taking it to the top side. BiuBiu just clearing the waves in the bottom lane as well. WE in complete control of this game. And now with a gold lead as well for the first time in basically since that first kill that we saw where Zoom went down in the top lane. Since that point, it's always been Top Esports ahead. So fantastic to see WE showing up in this way. And honestly, I think surprising a lot of people. Remember, this is a team that's currently 0-2 in the standings. And yes, they had a good game against V5, but I was not expecting them to come into this series and look like they might just win game number 1 straight off of the bat.
And I think at this point, 1K gold lead, it doesn't look as big, but with what we've hit on in terms of compositionally how this should play out, I definitely think it feels more like a 3 to 5K gold lead for the side of WE. Heck, it's still going to grow because they do still have the Baron up for now. The nice thing for top esports is that they were able to take away some dragons. Knight going to take a good fair bit of damage.
Not
really
red like a book.
off that.
Yeah, Knight tries to go in on BiuBiu, just gets belly bopped.
I love how aggressively BiuBiu's playing as always. Walking forward, he's kind of saying, hey, come in. You blow your cooldowns on me. Gonna save time for his carries to be able to reposition, play out these minions. And for WE, it just seems, okay, we're gonna keep controlling bot side. We're gonna see if we can catch anyone out off guard. I don't think they have a great ability at being able to threaten turrets up against Jinx. Does outrange the Aphelios. You have phenomenal wave clear. Maybe Shanks can do a little bit in bot side, but still not going to do enough to be able to take that turret. So just trying to make sure that top esports can't get any vision control bot side with the fact that Dragon will be coming up in a minute 20.
Yeah, the only minor concern I have is that this feels like the game is slowed down a lot. And it's 2 Drakes apiece, so Dragon doesn't really matter for another like 10 minutes basically. Yeah, it matters, but it's not like the game-winning play for a long while. Baron will be up in another 2 minutes, but the longer this goes on, the more top esports eggs start to rest in the JackeyLove basket, right? He's the one with the range. He can play against an Aphelios very comfortably. He can play against the Ryze very comfortably. If he doesn't get caught out, that is a big if, JackeyLove can win those late game fights. It is JackeyLove. And we all know JackeyLove. He does get caught out sometimes, and he does just run it down sometimes. But the other times, he does 1v9. So it's like, I know, I feel like I'm reiterating the same point we made about Knight, just with a different player's name slotted in, but it's possible. And it's all down to Mojo.
Much, you made me realize the second you said JackeyLove is the one who can play off range and, you know, can kite this up. It's like, no. The second you're saying that JackeyLove needs to be like tethering his range,
intelligent,
and you know, trying to compete against the Aphelios, staying right on the edge of wind becomes lightning and knowing BiuBiu's effective range. That's not JackeyLove. JackeyLove's going to walk forward Munchables, and he's going to do that right now because both teams posturing for the Dragon. Knight playing off on a flank. He's the member we got to keep our eyes on for top esports. WE plays a 5-man deathball composition to protect stay.
This is going to be a 50-50. Let's see which jungler's got the fastest fingers. It's Xiaopeng, and Zoom on the front line here. Goes for the World Ender, but he's got a Lantern to get him out to safety as well. Top esports grabbing themselves the Drake, and without losing a single player either, but they've got to get back to base because the Realm Warp into the mid lane. It's time for a bit of mojo from WE's side as they barrel down towards this mid lane in Hip Tower. The recalls are so slow from top esports. They don't have the Baron empowered recalls like they would want, and it means it's a Dragon in trade for a mid lane inhibitor. That is huge for WE.
That was an amazing rotation coming out from WE to realize that they can go for that one. Not only do they use that Realm Warp, get mid, take an inhibitor, but also they'd set up their waves to stack up top side to where top esports were also losing a bunch of farm to that top lane turret before they were able to get there. I wonder if TS are going to start a Baron, realizing that some of these recalls for WE are going to need to come out.
I feel like they could, and I feel like it'd be a very top esports thing to do. But with that said, they're not going to do it. This is uncharacteristic, honestly. I would fully expect them to all just blast cone into the back of the pit and go for it, especially with the Jinx. But so far, not being willing to pull the trigger on these kinds of plays. And again, I keep using this word restraint when it comes to talking about our teams this year. It feels like B5 is another team with a weirdly surprising amount of restraint when it comes to these kinds of plays. The top esports playing it cool. I don't think I've ever said that sentence before.
You know what's also really weird to think about with LPL right now? I feel like typically our splits go that LPL in the start of the split actually looks decently strong. Maybe it actually comes in after Chinese New Year, but I feel like our teams typically start to taper off in level of wackiness. I feel like it definitely gets more wacky as the split goes on. You see more int moments, you see more aggression, you see more random Barons that shouldn't be started. So I feel like we just gotta wait a couple of weeks and we will be good to go. Chinese New Year break is gonna be coming soon as Knight gonna get a massive chunk onto BiuBiu.
That is some damage right there. And he's still only on 8 stacks of that Dark Seal. He's getting close to the Medjais. The reset comes in for JackeyLove. There's a Zap as well. Knight over the wall. Big damage on to stay there. And WE, dare I say it, it feels like they're starting to struggle a little bit in these fights. TP back in from BiuBiu. He wants to try and make his way in. He's just got to be that big brick wall on the front line. But Kedaya's half health. Viu is half health. Stay got forced away as well. He's trying to lifesteal off the jungle camps right now. And you have to wonder, with top esports in this position, maybe now is the Baron call instead.
And this has all been because of Knight, right? Because Knight is one who has non-committal damage, can go in, chunk people out, back away, and try and make the fight more even for them by lowering these health bars. I think they're just looking for a bait now. They know they can't go for this. WE need to force an engage.
Moment of truth there. Knight over the wall could potentially find an angle, sweeping so they don't know where he is right now. Kedaya, Shanks all grouped up. Remember that Lulu can ruin Knight's day. It can stop him going back to his distortion with the polymorph. And top esports, they want this fight. They're just going to
They can't do this though.
Again.
WE can go mid-bunch.
There are pings in the base, but they're not willing to commit to the base. They're going back towards the Baron instead. It's going to be a 50-50 smite, and it's taken by Viu. Now the fight is on our hands. Zhuo trying to pull people out, but JackeyLove has already fallen, and WE will get everything their hearts desire. Knight has to flee 3 kills, and now WE can make their way to the base.
WE being a little bit indecisive there. Do we go mid? Do we go to the Baron? They decide to pull towards the Baron. TS are low, and they find the fight. This should be them ending the game.
Yes, it should. I don't see a way that this heads a different way. Knight still the flawless KDA, but not able to do anything about the situation. He goes in, he tries to make something happen, but he ends up on his fountain. 10-5, and WE take down top esports for game 1 of the day.
I feel like it was a little bit of a draft diff coming out for the side of WE. I really liked what they had into the champions that top esports did pick up. TS definitely having windows where they could have taken over the game, right? We even saw it later on in the game. I think Knight was doing his job phenomenally. Sit in brushes, stay behind walls, pop over, throw out a chain, throw out a Q, chunk them down, try to get them low enough to where then you can take a fight. Problem is that you have the shields coming out from Lulu. You have BiuBiu who's able to eat a lot of that damage. Just recall, get back on the map. Just a lot of space being able to be built by WE. So WE played well. Viu as well. 2 out of the 3 smites, he beat Xiaopeng. And Xiaopeng won the, what was it, the one dragon? And then Viu winning the Baron and the Herald. So yeah, we highlighted that Viu has been a member that has stood out on this WE squad, and he continues to do so.
Yeah, Viu looking really good in this game. And honestly, I feel like top esports are a team that like to make bad decisions a lot of the time. I feel like they needed to make more bad decisions in this game. I feel like with the draft that they had, this is not a long-term win. You've got to just flip the game and make crazy things happen and hope you can just win on hand stiff, right? Because for WE, as you said right at the start of the game, all they had to do was kick back, relax, put their feet up, hope basically nothing happens all game. That's sort of what they did. Slowly but surely, won through correct decision-making, making better macro calls. Like, for example, the tower trades, right? Where we saw JackeyLove staying the tier 2 in the bottom lane while a Herald pushes mid. Like, just not a good call from top esports, and WE punishing.
No, and TS, I like how you put that of having to make, I like the way you said as well, having to make bad decisions. I'd say TS have this comp that, it's like a knife fight comp. You want to make it hectic, you want it to be a little bit crazy, you want skirmishes all over the place. You're going to have to flip a few situations, maybe going in, looking for a pick to be able to cause that chaos. They definitely tried. I think we saw that in a few instances. At least Knight tried. But the rest of the squad not able to get on the same page. I think also very hard because Jinx is not a champion who thrives in those situations. So you have champions like Aatrox, Viego, LeBlanc who want to do one thing, and then this Jinx who wants to do something completely different.
I think, Lyric, the best way to word it is if you want to live by the mojo, you gotta die by the mojo. So, top esports not committing to the mojo. We'll have to see if they'll bring more of that for game number 2, or whether WE are just gonna be able to keep this rolling forward. I'm excited to see what WE have up their sleeves. Find out in a few.